And while I was in the studio, I was like working, but also I would want to talk to people and I would then distract them from doing their work. So the teacher was like, you need to stop talking to people. So I was like, okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the B-Sides. I'm Eric, your host, and today for our guest, we have Connie. Hey, Connie.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Connie. So, if people know you, the one thing will for sure know is your favorite Korean musician. So, Connie, if you could tell our audience, who is your favorite K-pop group right now?
It's BTS.
So, since BTS, for those of you who aren't into the know, they are all in
Yes, they're all in the military
right now. Okay, so I want your opinion on when they are out of the military. Do you think they're going to still be as popular as they were, or how do you think that's going to go?
I think they could be still as popular or even more popular because even while they're in the military now, they are constantly putting out content like. Oh, I don't know when this
But
is
I feel like they're not as popular as like the content they produce right now is not. I don't see it very often. Like I used to see the BTS stuff all the time everywhere, right? But do you think it's a lot more individualized and like compartmentalized now amongst certain groups?
I don't know. I think it's maybe because there's a rise of just K-pop in general. So maybe you don't see the BTS news because you're just seeing a lot of the other groups' news.
That makes sense.
That's true, yeah. But I think even while they are on, like, I guess hiatus right now, there's been so much content. Like, I feel like, can I promo V's new song?
Yeah, sure, for sure. I don't even know who that is. But
You
please
don't
go
know
on.
V from BTS?
Oh, look, there's many things I don't know. Explain to me and the audience.
Oh, he's one of the vocalists.
Okay.
He's coming out with a new digital single called Friends.
Friends, and it's you said it has not come out yet.
It has not come out yet.
So where does he find the time to do this while also being in the military?
So it's all pre-done before he left. So they
have a drip. They're drip feeding you content pretty much. While they're still in the
we don't realize that we missed them as
Yeah,
much. So
yeah.
they have like a library just full of things that they haven't released yet. So
because you're saying that V, right?
Yeah.
He's a vocalist, and I'm assuming not everyone's a vocalist, right? So what kind of content do the non-instrumentalists provide, or that the audience can consume?
well, I guess J-Hope's coming out the new album soon too.
Oh, and he's not a vocalist.
He's technically a rapper.
Oh, he's a rapper. Okay. So then everyone has a part to play in vocal, but it might just not be singing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
Makes sense.
J-Hope.
There's not just a pretty guy who just is just
No,
there
they all sing or rap or do something.
Okay. I mean, sure. I just didn't know. Look, don't.
Oh my gosh,
I hope
how
the,
do you
the
not
stands
know,
don't come at me. Yeah.
Eric,
That'd be crazy.
be
I don't think
careful.
we're that popular enough of a show to have the fans come after us, but you never know.
Yeah, but I guess in terms of other content that's not music, Suga had a little show called Shuchita where he brought on just I guess both musical and just non-musical artists, like just like celebrities, and he would just like eat and drink with them and they would just talk. So he pre-recorded all those episodes before he left, and they've been coming out pretty constantly, like every week until recently, which he ended the season 1. But yeah, that's like another thing that they did before they left.
I had honestly no idea.
You should look it up
I
on
just
YouTube.
assumed they were doing stuff like right now in their break time in the military, but I guess they
No,
probably
they're
don't
not
have
allowed
that.
to. So when you're in
Yeah.
the military, you're not allowed to work, quote unquote. So you're not, because
Sure. And when are they scheduled to be out of the military?
I mean, it's staggered because
Staggered.
they all left staggered. So technically, Jin, who was the first to leave, is coming out in less than 100 days.
Wow. Wait, that's actually a lot sooner than I expected.
Yeah.
Well, because I remember the whole craze over BTS. I mean, it's still going on, obviously, but that was like huge, and I feel like everyone was kind of
Yeah.
enveloped in it, and then it kind of died down a lot because of the military stuff. So, with that, do you think girl groups actually have a lot higher of a percent chance of success because they don't have to do the military service?
I guess technically it could be a hypothesis. I think girl groups, yeah, because they don't have to, take the time off to like go into the military, they might have more success. But sometimes, like, whether you're a girl group or a guy group, there's like that 7-year curse where that's usually where like 7 years their contract is up. Most people are
Gotcha.
burnt out and they don't re-sign, so they just get disbanded. And some of those groups, it's like before they even have to go to the military anyway, so it's not just because of the military that like these groups are not as popular.
Yeah, I hear the industry over there is really cutthroat in that respect.
Yeah.
And it's especially if you leave for the military for 2 years, if everyone else is producing content like crazy, I feel like it's so hard to catch back up, even if you're the biggest Korean group that's ever existed. So I'm legitimately interested to see if the popularity will come back to, as you're saying, pretty much where it started before they had to all leave for the military, or if it goes down to a more reasonable level.
I think it could be as popular or even more. I say that because since they keep releasing content,
right,
people who don't know that they're in the military, who might just be regular listeners of music and are introduced to like songs that they're releasing while they're in the military, might become a fan and then be like, oh, I did not even know they were away. So like when they come back, there might be like, some new fans.
right.
But then I think this is also the case for any like Korean man, whether it's like they're singers or actors, any celebrity. So
Sure.
I think that happens to a lot of like actors who maybe have like one hit drama, but then they haven't served, so they go and it could really impact their future after they come back.
Gotcha. So in talking about BTS's meteoric success rise, what do you think contributed to that success that set them apart from the other groups in the past?
So I feel like their start of like that fame that was really popularized in the US started maybe like 2017. Yeah.
Wow, that was a lot earlier than I expected. Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot earlier than people know, because people maybe really got to know them through a lot of their English singles, which came out like around COVID. But even in 2017, they're selling out shows left and right. And I remember ticketing for that. That was really hard. So
I can only imagine.
like
Yeah.
if anyone who ticketed for IU recently, I experienced that in 2017.
Is that the one where you went to you were seated really up close, or is that a different one?
Well, I've had a couple
Okay.
shows where I was pretty close. So in 2017, that was during their Wings tour. That was like March. So
Is this before they kind of like rebranded, quote unquote? Until,
yeah.
Like, yeah.
So this is like still when they were kind of new to the West, but like fairly popular compared to other groups. And I think my argument for why they got really popular and how they kept their popularity for such a long time was their genuine like interest in music, but also genuine relationship with their fans. So early on within their career, when no one knew about them, they would release like little mini like video diaries, so like vlogs, I guess, of like just like their thoughts at that time, what they've been doing. And so it's kind of like a very personable relationship that they had with their fans. So like we felt like we really got to know them before they even got big. And so I think that really solidified their fan base.
Gotcha.
So,
That makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah.
So I think just like their whole attitude towards music and their fans really kind of like got a lot of people staying.
breath of fresh air kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah, that's great. If BTS ever goes on their final tour, farewell tour, do you think you would go wherever it is, no matter how much it costs?
What do you mean farewell tour?
Like, say they all decide to retire and go their own
They're
separate
not.
paths. I mean, yes. They
they
in this
resigned.
crazy
No, they
new world,
resigned.
in like 40 years when they're all decided
Oh.
to go away, do you think you would go all the way to Korea and pay 5,000 USD for that trip?
I mean, yeah.
That's great. Well,
But
can't wait.
if I can get tickets
Sure.
to Korea.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be probably the craziest any
Yeah, the Korean concerts are done by lottery, so it's not
Oh,
even like
wow.
it's yeah.
And are there resale tickets over there, or is it
So
kind
it's
of
really
not really?
hard to get resale tickets just because they're pretty strict
Right.
security wise because they ask you to like check your ID.
The social security number thing.
No, it's
Not
it's
that.
mostly just like checking your ID. So how most people get tickets to their Korea shows are through like their fan club membership. And so their
Right.
fan club membership has like their name on it, and so they check that name versus the name of like your ID, whether that is like whether you're a Korean citizen or an international fan, they'll check your passport. So for them to do that, that's a very big security measure. So it's really hard to even get resale tickets because how are you going to find someone
Right.
with your same name or
Yeah.
something like that, you know?
Soon everyone will just be in the same exact name in Korea just so they could sell tickets a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But awesome. Yeah. So just to switch gears a little bit, Connie, one of the reasons why you came to Virginia, or maybe the reason, is because of your education, right? You went to, was it American University?
Yeah.
Was that your bachelor's or your master's program?
My bachelor's.
Your bachelor's program, and you had a degree in international relations. Is that
Yes.
right? So, talking about that a little bit, what was your favorite class in college, and if any reason why?
I guess for my favorite classes are different between undergrad and master's.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go undergrad first.
Okay, undergrad. There was this one class. It was like peace and conflict resolution. I really liked it because one of our, I guess, like assignments or projects was simulating a actual crisis situation that happened. So we were given like roles in like embassies for like certain countries, and then we were given like team missions because you know as a team, like whether you were in the working for the embassy of like Italy or you know Germany, you have your own goals and your own strategic interests.
Right.
So we did a simulation of that, and we were simulating the start of World War One. So we were given the telegram that Duke of Franz Ferdinand has been like you know
Assassinated?
assassinated. So we were trying to de-escalate the situation, not eventually go to World War One, but we were trying to see like whether that could happen. Some teams had like their own like spy missions. So like there was like one person who was trying to basically go to war.
Sure.
But you were trying not to get caught, you know, like making your interest not super obvious. Yeah, so we were graded on that. That was really fun.
That sounds pretty fun. The one question I have there is, it seems like so many hypotheticals that it doesn't seem like you'd have any real idea if what you were doing would translate to real life, right? So would there be things behind the scenes where the teacher was trying to make that as accurate as possible, or was it more or less you guys just trying to get the notion of how to do diplomacy?
I think it was a little bit of both. So, like he encouraged people to even talk outside of the class. So, during class, we would, you know, be more in like a model UN situation where we have like the ambassadors in a circle and talking amongst themselves. But, you know, outside of class, we can reach out to, you know, people that work in, you know, this country and that country and try to make like backdoor deals, which happens in real life. So I think
Right,
it's
yeah.
kind of just to simulate what could happen and, you know, what we have to think about when going into a career of foreign service. You know, what are some of those risks that we would have to, you know, conquer or go through?
Sure. That sounds like was that pretty much the entire class, or was that just
No,
one
it was
portion?
just like
Gotcha.
near the second half of the semester.
So why do you think that was your favorite class besides the kind of fun aspect of it? Do you think you gained a lot of information from it?
I think it introduced kind of a lot of maybe the work that I want to do in the future and opened my eyes a little bit.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of diplomacy and politics is like your relationship with people, how you can get deals done, and how they want to, you know, make deals with you. And I think that comes down to like how personable are you a little bit versus, you know, what your strategy is. So I think it's a little bit of both. So I think I liked the personable aspect of it and like getting to know your counterparts, getting to know your team.
Gotcha. Yeah. So why did you actually get into international relations in the first place?
That's a good question.
By the way, I'm going to say IR from now on because I
Yeah.
don't want to say international relations
Yeah.
the entire time. I can barely speak as is.
Okay, so how did I get into it? I think it was kind of really random in a way. I don't know if you knew this. I wanted to be like a fashion designer, actually.
Did not know that.
Yeah, so growing up, I was very into art and just the arts in general. Like I was into music. I still am into music, but yeah, I thought I was gonna be a fashion designer or some sort of interior designer. But then I realized that like I was starting to work on my portfolio for if I was going to go to art school. And that's like hours upon hours of just like sitting and like
Right.
painting, drawing, doing whatever. And while I was in the studio, I was like working, but also I would want to talk to people and I would then distract them from doing their work. So the teacher was like, you need to stop talking to people. So I was like, oh, okay. So I realized that like I did enjoy art growing up, but I think I couldn't sit still and like not socialize. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I want to go into more of like a people oriented, I guess, profession or some sort of a career out of that. I never really was a big history person. I'm very bad at history, actually.
That's surprising considering
Considering IR, it's like you need to know history,
it's
right?
like all about the history.
Yeah. But I realized that when you go into international relations, yes, it's like history, but also it's how you use history with people. And so I was like, oh, I guess I like people. I also like traveling, like you said. I love to travel and like learn about new countries, new cultures. So I was like, oh, maybe I can go some sort of like international route. And then my mom was telling me about like, oh, like what about IR? And I was
Right.
like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, and I think she influenced me a lot. Just like her, how she raised me, I guess. I was always very immersed in the Korean culture, I guess, not just
right.
like language wise, but I also did like Korean traditional dancing growing up. So I was very aware of like the Korean culture and I think I liked that. So I was like, oh, I can do that same thing, but like learning about new countries, new cultures. So it's like that in that aspect, it really influenced my decision. So I was
Sure,
like,
sure.
sure, I could do that. So I went into IR.
Wow, yeah, that's quite the pivot from art to IR.
Yeah. But I guess it's still not a science. You know, like IR is very much theory.
Sure.
It's a theory based industry, I guess. It's not like your math and science where you have one right answer.
Sure,
And like
sure.
there could be multiple ways to get that answer, but in IR, it's like there's so many different theories, there's so many different ideas and perspectives that there is no right answer. I think it's just how you play the situation.
Gotcha. So what would your dream jobs or goal be in your career search at this point?
I guess I do want to become a foreign service officer one day. So that's kind of working with the State Department abroad and like in embassies. So yeah, I'm currently studying for that.
Gotcha. Who would be your like direct boss in those situations?
I think it depends on what office you're in. So every embassy has different offices where it's like the political affairs office, economic office, public diplomacy, you know, consular services and whatnot. So I think my direct boss would be whoever is
Right.
yeah.
I
in
guess that was a
office.
dumb question on my part.
I'm like, I don't know who
Like,
my direct boss is.
some person. I don't know. I guess I meant like what kind of department, but I guess it, as you said, it kind of matters based off
Yeah.
of what you're doing.
I guess like in the end, it can your big boss is like who maybe whoever's your ambassador
Sure.
in that country, but then their boss is probably Secretary of State, and then Secretary of State's boss is the president. So
So would you act as more of an advisor in these roles, or more of like almost a policymaker?
that also depends on which
Okay, yeah.
office you go to.
Depends.
Because like
what
when
about
you're-
your dream scenario?
I would want to go either into the economic office or the public diplomacy office. I feel like for economic, it's a lot of research and like policy making and probably like memo writing and understanding like the economics of trade with that country or exports, imports, and whatnot.
Sure.
But public diplomacy is kind of different where they do more community outreach where they help that country that we're in currently, influencing our relationship with them and then also helping them grow their whatever policy initiative where it could be just like better health services maybe, but we try to help I guess them understand like how to grow that infrastructure or something like that.
Sure. So based off that path, where do you think you are right now in that cycle, and kind of what do you think your next steps would look like?
studying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the whole process to be an FSL is you take the exam, the written exam, which is given 3 times a year, but you can only take it once a year. So
Oh,
yeah, so
so you better pass.
oh, I already failed it last year.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you're studying again for this year?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think it's I guess it's not like a job that you can rely on. You have to kind of already have a job and you study on the side, I guess, because you never know when you can pass.
Sure.
It's a I guess it's a big ranking thing of like whether you pass or not, how you rank with other people who took the exam with you in the same cone, like the same office.
Gotcha.
So yeah, like that process, you take the written exam. If you pass the written exam, then you go on to the oral exam. And
Oh,
there's an yeah,
it's like you're in high school
I
again.
know. And this like oral exam is like 12 hours. You're not interviewing for
12?
12 hours, but basically you do it with other people. So like the first half of the day is more like team exercise where it's like similar to simulation that I talked about for my other class during undergrad. So they're giving us a real life situation and we have to like put together a memo or something like that as a team, as an embassy team. And then they kind of grade you based on like how well you work with others, what role did you play in your team, and how well did you, put together a product, like a deliverable, whether that's a memo or something like that. And then you go into like the panel interviews where it's like you're in the room with like maybe like 2 or 3 other people. I actually don't know. Who knows? I don't know how many people there are. And they interview you just like any other job interview. And then that day whether you passed or not. And if you pass, then you're going through security clearance. And if you don't pass the security clearance, then you can't, go to the next stage.
Man.
I know. But then if you pass the security clearance, then basically you're put into a ranking. And based on that, it's kind of you're applying for positions. You're like eligible to apply for positions overseas. So it's not even guaranteed that you get a job if you pass. You have to find a position that will like hire you. So there are people who have passed but don't get a job. So I think it's like if you don't get a position, like a tour assigned to you within like a year and a half, you have to retake the
Oh
exam.
my God.
I know, right?
That's all. I had no idea that any of that process existed.
Yeah. So
just how selective is that? Is it like millions of people applying, like 100 positions available, or?
that also depends on like
okay,
you
fair
know
enough. Yeah. On the availability.
yeah, on the
people
availability of
applying.
people, how many open spots there are. So
Sure.
that could also be influenced by the administration,
Right.
whether the president wants more people to be FSOs or not, whether there's a hiring freeze going on or not.
I guess it does make sense to send the best and brightest in terms of dealing with foreign policy. That seems like it'd probably be the best solution in these instances.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. When you kept saying that you were studying, I had no idea what you're studying for. Honestly, like maybe she's studying for the SAT again. I don't know. Yeah, but I'm glad to know that you were studying for this 12-hour oral and other
No,
stuff.
I guess I have to pass a written exam first.
Fair enough. Well, good luck with that. That sounds
Thanks.
very fun. I haven't taken a test since college.
Really?
So I think so. Maybe
You haven't gotten any like certifications?
I took some personality tests. Does that those count?
Oh my god!
I'm a Gryffindor, by the way.
Oh my gosh, Hufflepuff!
Oh my god, I don't think we're compatible. No, thanks, Connie. So this season we're actually trying to get into grace stories a little bit for each individual, just kind of talk about how God's impacted their life. I was wondering if you had any really strong examples of a grace story in your life that you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, I guess I have a few that come to mind.
Sure.
How many would you like me to share?
Let's start with one and work our way from there. How about that?
Okay. I guess so recently, I feel like not everyone knows this, but I feel like some people might know this. But last July, my mom was diagnosed with uterine cancer. And so I think that's obviously a big shock.
Right.
So I think it was not like you never expect someone to.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
It can
get
just happen anytime.
get diagnosed with cancer, especially not like your own family. And so I think that was just like a big shocking news to me.
Sure.
And so it was a big, I guess, like worry and like prayer request. But like surprisingly, I think how I reacted after I got the news was very different.
How so?
So I think in my head, if you ever kind of like hypothesize this situation happening to you, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna bawl my eyes out. I'm gonna be so sad. Like, I think you just imagine it being very like a dark time.
Sure.
But I think for me, I was like, okay, like not okay with the fact that my mom has cancer,
Right.
but I think
You're
how I
composed.
reacted to it. Yeah, I wasn't like so distraught that like my life felt like it was on pause or anything like that. And I think I just felt very reassured in God's just like grace and Him healing my mom. And that came like, I guess it impacted a lot of how I showed myself to other people. I think most people didn't know that I was like going through this because I just seemed pretty normal. And then also people would ask me like, "Oh, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm actually doing okay. Like I'm fine." They were like, "Are you sure? Have you processed this?" Like I think you expect someone to not be okay when you hear that news, but what I realized was that I was just like very peaceful with it. And I think the only thing that I could do was just like pray for my mom because I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not going to be able to, do anything to help her in that way. But I think how she also spoke to me about her condition was a big influence. How she was just so grounded in her faith that I was like, if my mom is not even like worried about it, like I don't think I need to be worried about it,
Sure.
And so that kind of really helped me keep my faith in God.
Gotcha.
Because I feel like some people could fall away from faith because they're like, oh, why is this like happening to me? A lot of those questions of like, why is God letting this happen? Why my mom? She's only been, only been faithful to you. Like, how can you, like betray her like that? I don't know. But I think, so yeah, seeing my mom react to it and how she was still like very solid in her faith, and how she even kept, I feel like she got even stronger because in those times when you feel very weak and like helpless and you still see God has prevailed, that really helps you gain even stronger faith. And so I think during that, I guess like 6-7 months where she was in Korea, and it was even crazy how I guess she found out about like her diagnosis because she had gotten a whole like body exam, like regular checkup in Korea like the year before, and nothing came up really. So she was fine. But then she was just like not feeling, I guess, like okay.
Wow.
So she decided to like go to the OBGYN, and that's where they like diagnosed her. So from the diagnosis, her even getting I guess an appointment in Korea with a doctor at a big hospital, I guess like that was also like God's provision too. And then from that initial consultation to her getting her like, I guess, surgery scheduled, it was only like a couple weeks, where I feel like
Wow.
it could take months. You
Yeah.
never know when there could be an opening, especially in such a big hospital. So I feel like that was also luck, but not just luck, but I feel like God was really providing for her in that way. And we were lucky that we got the surgery date when we did, because it actually progressed from like a stage 1 to stage 3 within like the matter of like 2 weeks. So it could have been worse, like it could have been really hard to remove the tumor, but because we caught it early on, she could get the tumor removed. But then it still kind of spread a little bit, so she had to go through like chemo. And even then, like it was, I guess, helpful that my mom had a sister and brother in Korea that she could, stay with, so we don't have to like obviously put her in hospice care, because that could
Right.
also be very lonely.
Sure.
So glad that we had family there to like, provide for her, whether that's just cooking her meals or just being there to, help her through it. So I think talking through this whole experience with my mom and my, I guess, like strong, just like faith and like knowing that God will end this cancer. I think that really helped me. Yeah.
It's really interesting to hear your composure because, as you said in
Yeah.
the beginning, I definitely would expect myself and, a lot of people to just be unable to handle our emotions at the time, right? So where do you think that comes from in particular? It comes from God for sure, but how do you think that spirit of calmness has been, I guess, inspired in you over the years? Do you think that's something that has been primarily through reading scriptures, or do you think it's your relationship with your family and your friends, things like that?
I think it's one, witnessing God work in not only my life, but also my mom's life that helped reassure that faith. Because I feel like sometimes if you've only gone through like all the bad things, you haven't seen God really work in your life. Up until that point, it could be even more of like a breaking factor of like your faith kind of crumbling down. But I think over the years, I've seen many times where God has provided for me. So I was kind of more like, oh, God will do it again. And, I was at peace with myself because I experienced how God worked in my life before. And so I
Sure.
think that really helped me through even this obstacle.
Gotcha. And what was your mom and the rest of your family's, I guess, perspective in the whole situation? Was it pretty similar?
I think so. Like, just like even talking with my mom, she was always like, all we can do is pray. Like, we kind of just relied on both like the doctors that they'll do their job, but also that, whatever happens, God will provide. And I think just like seeing her, keep reading the Bible and even reading books about cancer, and her just like wanting to know more about like the journey through, chemo or even like through like past memoirs of people. So I think it was just like a very big learning experience because I think before I didn't think I was very like at peace with a lot of like of these situations. I think I was very anxious before, but this time I was very much at peace. To like
Sure.
to the point where people were like, I don't know if you processed this. I'm
Right.
like,
Oh, I promise I did.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, who knows? Like,
Yeah.
maybe I didn't, and this will come. Like, I will process it throughout, the upcoming like several months. But I feel like overall, I'm pretty like good.
Gotcha. And how's your mom doing right now?
So she's back at home in Texas, and she is clean now. Like,
Okay.
she got her CT scan, and it came out clean. So like, hopefully, she won't have to go to the hospital for like it growing back.
Right.
But right now, she's doing good.
That's great.
Yeah, so she's just like trying to recover from the aftermath of
Right.
chemo because
Right.
it's a
I'm
lot
sure
of just like
debilitating.
drugs going into your system.
Yeah. Is there a lot of people at home to help her with that?
Yeah, so like we live with my 할머니, so she always like cooks, and it's nice to.
That's pretty nice. When you go home, you probably get some great home cooked food then. Huh?
Yeah, I like feel like I come back heavier.
Only good food when you're home, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's so interesting hearing about you and your this time of perceived helplessness that you're able to trust God, just despite having that helplessness, but kind of because you have that helplessness, right? I think it's interesting to know that. It seems like when you guys realized it was out of your hands, that kind of brought you guys a sense of peace more than a sense of chaos and fear of the unknown, right? So, because to me, that kind of sounds like that fear of unknown was more of a security in what is known, which is, as you said, is your foundation in Jesus Christ, right? So, I want to ask, what do you think built up that through your childhood? Do you think you've grown a lot in your spiritual walk through your parents, or how do you think you're able to kind of become a Christian on your own?
I think it really has to do with my mom. I think even when I was younger, she would always, ask me like, who is your father, or like, kind of like ask me questions of like, who are your parents? And usually like you would say like, oh, my mom or dad, but I would say I'm always God's child. And so even like from a young age, I think I was very grounded in my faith and my identity was in Christ and not in like my earthly parents. And so, of course, like going through like high school, college, you learn more about yourself.
Right.
But I think just like that foundation that my mom instilled in me as a child, like with my faith, and even those like silly questions, you don't think about it. You know, I was kind of like saying that because that's what she told me to say, you know? But then like thinking about it now, I'm like, I guess it's not like I was forced to say it, but it's kind of like what she taught me, you know? Like
Right.
you are always God's child first and foremost. So I think just like I'm very influenced by my mom.
That's great. Yeah, and it makes so much sense hearing everything you've said up to this point. Oh, that's quite a story, Connie. And thanks for sharing. I'm sure that's not exactly super easy to share, but do you think even up to this point you feel pretty okay with how God has been, you know, loving and treating you, and how the situation's been going?
I think so overall. Like, of course, there are times when I'm like, what are you doing in my life, God? You know, what's my next step? Which could be frustrating because especially during like job searching, like post grad, when I like graduate from college and like even after my master's program, like there's always, you know, those couple of months where you're doing interviews or applying for jobs where it seems like there's no end in sight, but then kind of like out of nowhere, just like God provides an opportunity. So I think those like countless experiences of kind of going through the same motion, but trying to like remember what I learned from the first time this happened.
Right.
So like I was trying to be like, oh, more I guess like faithful that, you know, whatever God's plan is, that it will work out in the end, whether that is how I want it to go or not. I think it's really helped me solidify the belief and idea that God has a plan.
Sure, sure. That's awesome. Do you have any prayer requests that you're specifically going through right now?
I guess specifically to me, other than my mom,
Well, with that, you know, maybe processing, but I guess you're pretty okay with that.
I feel like it's maybe just like being more obedient, or I guess like we all have a plan for ourselves because you know you don't want to aimlessly like live your life, but I think it's like I want obedience, that whatever God has planned for me, whether that is according to what I plan for myself or not, that I will be obedient, because I think we all have very like selfish minds, that we have a way that we want to live our lives and we have a timeline that we set for ourselves. But I think for me it's obedience, that whatever happens I will accept.
Gotcha. Do you have an example of what obedience might mean? Do you have something that's pressing on your heart, maybe? kind of sounds like you do. Or if you don't want to share, you don't have to share.
I think I guess like it's like multiple things where I have thought about like, maybe is being an FSO what God is calling me to do?
Wow.
Yeah, like, you know, sometimes I think to myself, like, okay, how many times do I have to fail this exam to, like, stop going down that path? But I don't know, like, who knows? And I think it's a lot that I have to think about, because if I do become an FSO, I would be, like, traveling constantly, or just, like, living in a new country, like, every 2-3 years. How is that going to impact, you know, my future family?
Right.
But also, I'm already thinking so future-wise, where, like, I'm assuming that I will have a family.
Maybe
you
step
never
by step.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Who knows? So I feel like that's, like, career-wise, that's, like, one thing. Another thing is, like, will I continue to stay in Nova? I've had a lot of people ask me, do I want to move? And I'm like, I don't know. But then you think about it, I've been here for over 10 years now, and that's almost a third of my life.
Yeah. Wow. Not
So-
quite yet, but you know,
Not quite.
almost a third.
Almost a third, but it's a big percentage of my time. And so people ask me, like, how long do you see yourself in Nova? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
I bet you didn't expect to be here for this long.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't know where I would be after graduation.
Fair
I think
enough.
I was pretty okay with being here. But yeah, like even after grad school, I had applied to jobs in New York. I can see myself if I ever do want to move to a new city, like maybe going to Chicago or something like that. But again, like that's according to like my own plan. So I feel like I don't know. I have a lot of things that I think about and try to plan, but could just go super different.
Yeah, no, fair enough. We never really know what the future holds, right? Well, thanks again for sharing, Connie, and we're gonna wrap it up today. But we'll
That's
definitely
it?
be that's it. You know, that was 40 minutes. Can you believe that?
Really?
Yeah. You know, talking just time flies quickly. But thanks so much for Connie, and we'll definitely be praying for your mom as well as you to be obedient, and we'll definitely also pray that BTS never breaks up, right?
Yeah.
Although they never will, right?
They never will.
They never will. So yeah, thanks again, Connie, and yeah, talk to you guys later.
Thank you. Bye.